Hi friends, it's Deanna Willison with our Blooming Catholic Life, and we were recently contacted by somebody with YouFra Africa. Does anyone know what YouFra stands for? It is Franciscan Youth. Of course, the youth of Francis. I don't know why it's YouFra, and don't say Franciscan Youth, because although it's short for Franciscan Youth, there can be other groups that are Franciscan Youth groups that aren't YouFra. Don't worry. That part never really becomes clear. It's like how the OFS says that we're a real order and we're different than all the other third order secular Franciscans. It's awkward. But YouFra is the Franciscan Youth Organization, and that is for ages 14 to 30 that are affiliated with the current OFS. That is, those that follow the rule of 1978. So we're united and yet separate and yet united. It's kind of funny. But okay, let me go back. I'm going to read you from some official documents to make this a little easier. But think of it in this way. Under the last rule, which is often called the Leonine rule, people could profess at age 14. They found that after Vatican II, they did not wanting people to profess at age 14. And I've met some people who did profess at 14 and stayed with their vows. And I've met some people who professed at 14 and then life took them away from the order and they found their way back in retirement. So can I say definitively whether 14 is too young to profess? I'm not really sure, but this is the answer they came up with. They still wanted something for the youth, young adults. So 14 to 30 is the age range we're talking about. And in this way, they kind of learn more about the Franciscan charism, and they use the secular Franciscan rule of 1978 as an inspiration. Let's go into the official documents. Oh, and it sometimes may lead down the road to profession, and wait for it, they can be in both groups at the same time, in a YouFra and an OFS fraternity at the same time. We'll get to all that. Let's go. I'll try and link all these documents below. Gets a little crazy, so bear with me here. But at any time, if you have enough information, feel free to jump out. If you've got more information than I have, feel free to put it in the comments below. It's a little bit different all around the world, and that's why some of these are international documents and some are not. So you may have some little different nuances here and there. And you'll see this allows, just like the rule of 1978 for OFS, this allows for great variation. Okay. It says here, our mission, we believe, and because we believe, we are joyful. That's beautiful. So is it just joyful Christians who join? Let me go on. Living our Christian faith with joy and surrounded by sisters and brothers with whom we can share our journey to God, growing together in the hope of making a difference by our simple acts in our everyday world. That's YouFra. Hoping to find our true mission in the church, following the model of St. Francis of Assisi. That's YouFra. Really sounds like it's a period of discernment, but you're discerning together as a group, right? That you kind of like St. Francis of Assisi. Maybe he's your patron saint. Maybe the school you attend to has the charism of St. Francis. Maybe you've met some friars and you're kind of interested, but you're not sure what this is going to look like in your adult life yet. It's really interesting that this group is 14 to 30. That's not a usual combination. Usually for youth ministry, at least in America, if you had it 14, it'd be 14 to 18, and then they normally have 18 to 21 and 21 to 30. Why in America do we break it up that way? Well, one is relationships. Youth and young adults tend to form romantic relationships. So 14 to 18, 18 is there's some peculiarities, but in general, 18 is our age of consent for some kinds of relationships. And so 14 to 18 is appropriate. That's the high school year. So you may have these divisions within YouFra. I have no idea. We do not have a YouFra in my fraternity. Generally, we have 14 to 18. 18 to 21. Why 18 to 21? Again, we have that age of consent at one age and the legal age to drink at the other end. And so those who are younger and not able to drink are not tempted as well. And so that's good for them. The 21 to 30, that's an adult. They're able to drink. They're able to consent. We don't want any hanky-panky going on in YouFra, but we acknowledge the reality of temptation. That's what we do in the church in America in general. That's how our youth ministry is broken into these three groups. So perhaps in America, YouFra does that. That may look a little bit different in your country. Now, could you have the different groups mentoring their way down? That is a possibility as well. Again, my fraternity does not have a YouFra attached to them, so I'm not entirely sure how this plays out. I'm just telling you under our child protection recommendations, that's normally how our youth ministry is broken down. Franciscan youth is where members between the ages of 14 and 30 meeting in fraternity embrace a true community spirit and develop a sense of belonging. With a community spirit and a sense of belonging and the continual support of the secular Franciscan order and Franciscan spiritual assistants. And again, those are from the big four Franciscans. That is a friar from the Friars Minor Capuchin, Friars Minor Conventional, or the Third Order Regular, the TORs. These are just men, just friars. They are our spiritual assistants, although in great extreme circumstances, a member of the laity may be trained to be a spiritual assistant. But we really want to have the friars. That is the original intention in the secular Franciscan order, is to go to the friars for guidance. So we really need them as spiritual assistants. Pray for them. And so with OFS and the spiritual assistants and in fraternity, YouFra seeks to grow in their human, Christian, and Franciscan dimensions of their life. All three of those are massively important. We have people here who are discerning to make promises. Down the line, they're going to make some temporary promises, hopefully in YouFra, again, after much formation, and down the line to make some temporary promises that are hopefully helping them to discern, try out, feel out, to make the promises they would make in the OFS eventually. Who can make these promises to the church? Those who have well-formed consciences, but also well-formed human beings. What do we mean by that? We all know, we've heard the word annulment. So if you get an annulment of your marriage, it's saying that you were actually not formed properly and you were actually incapable of making and keeping those vows that you made when you got married. You just weren't capable of it. You were not well formed. There was something wrong with your formation, so your judgment was bad. And so we don't want people to make bad judgments. So this is a part, it's like marriage prep for Franciscans. But by marriage, I mean your marriage to the church. And how does that look? Your promises that you are going to make in the church, we want those to stick. It is a huge problem in the OFS where people will go along. Some people drop out in the initial stages of formation, but a lot of people drop out within 3 years of making their promises, their profession, and why. It is a very curious phenomenon, but perhaps a chunk of it is they are not formed properly in either their human, Christian, or Franciscan dimension of their life. In fact, I know a number of them who have dropped out of, who either had problems, some of them do have problems with their human formation. Some have actually left Catholicism and, in fact, Christianity. These are people that I know. And some have left the Franciscan order and have gone on to be happy in a different third order. Very weird. So we want to make sure that that formation is correct, that you know what you're getting into when you do down the road make the promises, or that you can properly discern that you don't want to make them. You don't want to regret it later in life not making those promises as well. And so that's a lot to ask of a group, right? But those are the goals of YouFra to really help you. It says Franciscan youth is very much like you. They're students, friends, colleagues, someone's boyfriend or girlfriend, or their best friend even, right? In addition, Jesus and the gospel is the center of their lives. This is how St. Francis understood his life, and he is the role model and guide. So what is their formation? There is a formation plan. It says it's specifically designed and adapted for young people, which focuses on personal growth in faith and the Franciscan message of peace and all good. You know, I'm going to interject here my own personal opinion that I feel like we need to move away from saying peace and all good at some point, because what we want is the peace of Christ to be with everyone. I think we need to be a little explicit and put Christ back in that Franciscan message. Sure, it's in there, but it's kind of hidden. And I want to proclaim the gospel, the good news, not some mamby-pamby, like non-denominational, not even non-denominational, non-Christian, non-specific religion. Yay, I want you to have peace and goodness in your life. Absolutely. But that peace and goodness is Christ the Lord. And I want to be clear about that. So Jesus in the gospel is the center of their lives. That is how St. Francis understood his life. And he is the role model and guide. So the formation plan, it's interesting that this particular document says that there is a formation plan, but later on you'll see it says it's completely up to what the youth in your area need. We'll get to that a little bit later. It does say they are still part of communities working as volunteers and those in need, and conscious that their words are worthless without action. So just like St. Francis was called to sometimes contemplate and sometimes be out and active in the world, same with YouFra. Same thing, right? Both. They don't get shut up in a cloister, and as well as they aren't out doing work all the time. They try to seek a balance. They are one of the largest youth communities in the world. They believe that there's probably a youth fraternity near you, YouFra. Look for a youth fraternity. So does YouFra mean Young Franciscans, or does it mean youth fraternity? I don't know. Now I'm completely, my mind is blown. It says contact a nearby Franciscan community. That could be a secular Franciscan fraternity, or it could be a friary or convent. It could even just be a parish that is served by Franciscan priests. It says those are going to be your closest brothers and sisters due to their way of living the Franciscan charism in the church and in the world. And even if there isn't a YouFra, there may be some way for you to affiliate with them just to grow in that formation during those times. It does say our basic Christian and Franciscan family is the local fraternity, but we are also members of a bigger family. YouFra exists at a regional, national, and international level of the Franciscan family. So just like OFS has multiple levels, same with YouFra. Franciscan youth are young people from different countries throughout the world who have chosen the gospel as their way of life. They live the spirit of St. Francis of Assisi, who made Christ the inspiration and the center of his life with God and with people. They believe that the world can be a better place, a place where people live as one family, with respect for each person, because we're all brothers and sisters in Christ. God has planted his words in every person's heart. All our paths lead to God. Well, I would hope they do. But we all know not all paths lead to God. But your map and guide for the journey is St. Francis of Assisi. May the peace of Christ be yours. I'm going to hold off reading other ones. I want this introduction one to be a little bit short, but I do have here the Way of Franciscan Vocation, here a little bit longer document for you, as well as a shorter one on their monthly prayer intentions. So stay tuned. There's going to be a series of these YouFra videos. God bless, friends. Bye.